You are listening to SoHeavenly Media.
Well, hello, family. Welcome to another Good Stewards show. And today we have with us on the show Mr. Pako Moshaga, who is the founder and the managing consultant at Talitha Cumi Consulting. The man is a writer, he's a speaker, and also a personal branding consultant. And he has given talks hosted by private companies, governments, parastatals, and NGOs. And to add on to that, the man also doubles as a financial services professional with over 11 years experience across 4 commercial banks. So that is who we have with us on the show today. Mr. Pako Moshaga, we welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much for the invite and for the warm welcome as well.
Our pleasure, sir. And we are so grateful that you have made time for us today. And we want to start off with the question for today. The question for the day is, sir, which subject gave you nightmares in school?
This one is very easy, boss. Setswana gave me nightmares. If you had to look at my transcript or my certificate from 5, you'll see all the good grades, and then you come to Setswana. Yeah, so I tried my best. I honestly tried my best, but yeah, that was a major challenge for me.
Okay, I thought I was going to be the only one who had a difficulty with Setswana.
No.
Because I thought because of how I grew up, because I had family from I have family from Central, I have family from Northeast. Some of our family members are actually from Zim. So I grew up in a family where there were 3-4 languages that were used.
Hey.
And then now on top of that, I grow up now where? In Francistown.
Ish.
So it's like a melting pot of like cultures and languages. So
it's just like SA. It's like living in South Africa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So when my results, and this is the part where I brag. This is the one that I always brag about. And then when my results came out for BGCSE, I got a B.
Oh wow!
Yes, that was the highest mark. That was the highest mark that I've ever received in all my life.
Saving the best for last.
Yes. I went out with a bang. Bang.
Nice one.
I remember for my standard 7, my parents had to hire a tutor for Setswana just to help out. It's like, hey, this guy, we need to find him a tutor, Setswana, to help him out. So guys, let us know which subject gave you nightmares in school. Share with us in the comments below. Let's dive straight into it. And I think as we start, we have to acknowledge the fact that the world is changing. It be global warming, it be technological advancements, that the world is changing and we have to be innovative in our approach. I used to work for an organization. I remember I was told, in trying to bring some improvements to the organization, I was told, no, this is how we've been doing things here for 20 years. Nothing is changing. So we are not going to change. So this is how we are moving. It has been like this since 1988. So, Charlie, we are not changing. Yes. So the world is changing, and as people, we have to acknowledge that the world is changing, and we have to come up with ways of keeping up with all of this innovation that is taking place. So yeah, as we dive in, over the past decade, how have you seen the job market in Botswana actually evolve?
So I'd say over the past 10 years, firstly, the market has become more digitalized, right? We see with when you apply for a job, these days they give you a link or a QR code that you need to scan and use that to submit your CV. So submission is more digital. Then by extension, your CV has to be ATS compliant. ATS is an application tracking system. So it basically means that the CV that you submit online is scanned by a system. And if it passes, then it's moved on to the actual company to go through. And so if your CV is not ATS compliant, the system automatically finds you not fit for the job based on your CV. And then the third thing that we've seen again in the last 10 years, it's remote working from home. Ever since COVID, working from home became a thing. And even now, we have companies that basically offer a hybrid approach where you can work from home on some days, then on other days, you have to work from the office or you work from home permanently. So I'd say these are some of the key changes that we've seen over the past 10 years.
Okay, I don't know. If it's because I haven't applied for a job in a very long time. But is this knowledge? Do people know that when they send out their CVs, that their CVs are actually scanned? I
I
didn't
think
know
it's
that.
something that people are starting to know, because there are a few consultants that offer this service in terms of converting your CV from an ordinary CV to an ATS compliant CV. So the word is slowly getting out there, but I feel most people don't know as yet, because when you send via a link, the CV should be in either Word form or in PDF form, not a scanned
Yes.
document. So for the system to be able to read it, should either be Word or Word converted to PDF. So unfortunately, it's not very common knowledge as of now, and it only comes up when you really try and look into why you aren't being called for any job interviews, what you might be doing wrong. That's when you'll come up with that's when you'll come across some of this information.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, we are learning today. Now, what are some of the current trends and challenges that workers and employers in Botswana are currently facing? And before we jump into that, there was something that I wanted to mention at the beginning, that this was a conversation I think that is very vital now to assist those also who are applying for school, or those who are finishing school, about to start uh, uh, looking for work. That this is such a vital key. And I wish we could have had this conversation earlier, but we are having it now. So yeah, what are some of the current trends and challenges that workers and employers in Botswana are facing?
So I'd say I'll start with the candidates, right, or the employees. So with the candidates, I think one of the biggest challenges is really unemployment. It's finding opportunities, and also because of the state of the economy right now, you'd find that job opportunities aren't that many. So when you are in a job but you wish to move to a better job, you can't always do it instantly. You have to wait for either a company to expand and create new roles, and then you can fit into those roles, as an example. Then the other challenge is being rejected due to social media screening, which is something that's also become quite common and that people aren't really aware of. So social media screening is part of the assessment process when you apply for a role. And over the past 10 years, it's become quite common for a potential employer to look through your social media, so your Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and things like that, to assess the kind of character that you have, the kind of culture that you be bringing into the company. And if they find that your values are not aligned with the company, then they are at liberty to find you to not be fit for the role. So I'd say these are some of the things that come across as a challenge for candidates, which they may or may not be aware of, which is why on my social media, as a person that's into personal branding, I ensure that people understand that personal branding is also about what you say and do online and how that affects your job opportunities. Then I'd say on the side of, still on the side of employees, is the cost of living. So you'd find that the rate of cost of living is higher than the rate at which I'd say salaries are reviewed. Typically, in a company, these are reviewed once or twice a year. But when you look at cost of living, it's essentially something that increases almost month on month or maybe quarter on quarter. So you find that the rate at which one moves isn't as fast or isn't as fast as the rate at which the other moves. So there's always that gap, that lag between the two. So that's definitely a challenge on the part of employees. Now, coming to the part of employers, one of the challenges faced by employers is a candidate that looks good on paper, on their cover letter, on their CV, they look good. But when it comes to the actual job interview, they aren't ready. They aren't able to present themselves well. They maybe fall into doubt, or they are unable to articulate themselves well enough to basically secure that job. Because ultimately, as much as you may have a good CV, what matters is the face-to-face interaction. Because in a job, you deal with people face-to-face. So if in person you don't deliver, unfortunately, that means that you don't get the job. So that's one challenge. Then the second challenge is around basically how to retain talent and employees. So you'd find that talent here, we refer to those members of staff that are exceptional, that are very good at their roles, and they meet, or rather they exceed expectations. So being able to keep those people within the company is often a challenge for most employers, because these people are in demand, and so they are easily poached by other companies. So I'd say at a high level, those are the kind of challenges that are faced by either side.
And that is a conversation that we know of, but I don't think that people actually take it seriously, that if you are looking for employment, there's potential that your potential employer could go through your social media.
Yeah.
And I think we know about it, but we don't really believe that it is actually taking place.
Yeah.
And I will say it personally that as an employer, there are those instances where I've gone to somebody's social media page to say, hey, does this person actually align with our values and what we are trying to do? And you'll be shocked at the amount of things that you are able to discover just by going through somebody's social media page. And I think you are the right person for the job. You are the personal branding expert when it comes to assisting people. So people, reach out and get help. As we said, I think I heard this a couple of months ago that 50 years ago, people were sent to space with less computing powers than the power that we actually have on our phones. that people went to space with less computing powers
Mm.
than the power that we actually have in our phones today, that somebody went to space with that. So
Yeah.
another one that you mentioned earlier is the advancements of technology, that technology is changing the way we work. So I want to find out, how is technology, we are looking at now the current craze that we are talking about, which is artificial intelligence, we're talking of automation. How is that affecting the job market in Botswana, if at all it is affecting the job market in Botswana?
So I'd say firstly, automation. So automation will talk more to companies that make products, that manufacture products. So in that space, I'd say it's really normal course of business. I mean, any business owner wants to ensure that they are efficient in how they make their products. So that is just part of the cycle, part of the nature of the industry. So with that, I'd say it's just normal course of business, really. And when we look at the type of technology that we have locally, I'd say we are doing okay. We're not as advanced as those in the first world, of course, which is also a good thing in a sense, being that it allows for companies to be able to hire more people and keep more people on their payroll. So I'd move to the one which is currently trending, which is AI. So AI has meant that a number of jobs can be taken out and replaced with AI. I mean, you can use AI to design your graphics, as an example, to write a movie script. You can use it to do a host of things. And so AI basically would mean that a number of people would be phased out and replaced with computing. So that's the unfortunate side when it comes to employment. But on the other end, AI empowers those that are unemployed to actually offer services backed by AI. For example, if you are in the research space as a self-employed person, you can use AI to help you enhance the quality of your research and the speed at which you deliver on your work. If you are someone who's in the media space, you can use AI to actually write music for you and to write lyrics to accompany that music as well. And you can use AI to improve the quality of your pictures, of your videos, of your content as a whole. So there are pros and cons. On the employment side, it means job loss. On the unemployment side, it means that people can now actually make use of AI and create companies backed with AI. And in the local market, AI is still, I'd say it's bubbling under. It's yet to really be as trendy as we see in the States, in the UK, in Europe, and the like. So one that would move first locally will then get that upper hand, basically. So yeah, there's the good and there's the bad, depending on which side you are basically on. And on the employment side, it really calls for us as people to be multi-dimensional. So we've gone past the days where you can just be good at your job and that's it. You just do one job and that's it. You need to do one job, but also be able to do other jobs and have other skills as well that are outside of your space. And that's how you become basically a value-adding employee. And in yourself as well, you become someone that has high value. So it's upon us as people to take AI as a challenge as opposed to a threat and say, this means that I have to upskill myself, increase the level of value that I offer, increase the knowledge that I have, the skills that I have, and the things that I can do in the workplace. So it's a good thing. It can also be a bad thing, depending on the perspective that you as a person take up.
So, sorry, with these changes, we just mentioned now AI, and you also mentioned the fact that people now have to add certain skills onto their CVs. What are some of those skills do you think are going to be the most in demand in the future, looking at the Botswana job market?
So I'd say the skills that will be critical are those that AI and automation cannot do, and those are people skills. AI can do a lot of things, but it cannot give that human touch. So what will make you relevant and valuable going into the future is, one, being comfortable with technology, being comfortable with using AI, being comfortable with using a computer, being comfortable with things like robotics, as an example. So just being comfortable with that spectrum of technology that we see currently trending, and also going into the future will still be quite trendy. Then the other thing, as I mentioned earlier on, is people skills. So people skills, basically, I'm talking to management, being able to manage people well, being able to lead people, being able to influence and motivate people, public speaking, being able to network and talk to a host of people and build genuine connections within that circle. And these really are the skills that will put you at the forefront going forward into the future, because these are skills that AI cannot copy. AI can write, it can speak and can do a number of things, but it lacks a soul. It lacks that human touch. So there are things that only people can do. So it's then upon you to ensure that you build on your people skills, to ensure that as we go into the future, you are strong in that area.
And I believe that is something that you guys do at Talitha Cumi Consulting. You help people, you train people with public speaking. And I was watching a video a couple of days ago that somebody was visiting a hotel. I think it was in South Korea or Japan, somewhere there. And the reception staff was robots.
Yeah.
And they mentioned
Yeah.
something key. They mentioned something key, that in that moment, they missed the human touch. I think even as we make these advancements, the human touch will always be required, because there are certain cues that you can get when you are talking to somebody face to face. There's an understanding, because a robot is a robot, or AI are programmed, and they will never be able to understand unless they have been programmed, or they cannot change their programming on demand. And another thing, I think, as you mentioned there, is that all of these skills are necessary for the future. And we cannot live out the importance or the key role that education plays in preparing the workforce of tomorrow. So, how do you think our education system currently in Botswana is helping prepare students for these jobs of the future, or preparing them for the future job market?
So I'd say there's quite a gap in our current education system in terms of the structure and the focus and the content as well of the education that we look at. If we take a leaf from the page of countries in the first world, right now there's a lot of focus on technology, AI, on programming, on robotics, and just technology as a whole. And here I'm talking to education in primary school. So kids from 6 up to maybe 11 or 12 years old or so, they're being taught how to program. Because if you look at where the world is now and where it's going as well, a lot of wealth is being made from the tech space. People that build apps and sell those apps, people that run apps, people that know how to program are those that are making quite a sizable amount of money in the world, and they are important and becoming even more important going into the future because the world is becoming more and more tech based. So I feel where there's room for improvement is in us as a country basically saying, you know what, we need to rethink and review how we offer education locally. I mean, of course, things like agriculture are key. Things like learning our language are critical. But we also need to introduce what is critical on a global scale. So I've seen quite a number of private companies offer coaching for kids around how to program, how to code, and things like that. And it's really great to see. But because these are offered by private companies, it'll only benefit those kids that have parents that can afford these, and also those that are based in the city, because these are offered in the city. So if these were to be offered from a core education perspective, they can affect the wider community. And also, it's a form of empowerment, because if you know how to code, how to program, once you're done with school, you can actually be self-employed. Even while in school, there's a number of youth that we see in the first world that basically became millionaires because of ideas and apps and codes that they wrote. So it's a way to also empower our citizens to be able to be independent once they're done with school. So I'd say a major overhaul is definitely needed in our system, and to also benchmark with what we see in places like Finland, for example, who excel in education. So benchmarking based on such countries to see how they got to where they are and why it works so well would definitely be a much added advantage to us as a country.
Yeah, that is so true. And as you were talking there, I was just reminded that when you look at some of the wealthiest people, most of those guys built or are still currently running technology businesses. Like you look at your Jeff Bezos, you look at your Elon Musk, that all of these businesses are technology-based businesses. So
Exactly.
technology basically is the future, and it is actually the now. I remember,
100%.
wow, today I'm remembering a lot. I guess it's the it's the tea that I drank. I read a story. A guy was telling a story of how when the internet blew up in the 90s. I think it's Seth. I forgot his last name. When the internet was blowing up in the 90s, so a lot of companies now were having what? Websites. So they were busy trying to build a directory of websites. Meanwhile, while they are doing that, two other guys are busy building Google.
Yeah.
So safe to say, obviously, that directory never saw the light of day. That it was completely wiped out by Google. And another perfect example will be Uber. That back in the day, for you to have a taxi company, you had to go and buy a fleet of cars. But we see
Yeah.
apps like Uber, guys are like, no, I'm just going to build a platform and everybody who has a car signed up. So in a matter of days, you already have access to a fleet of cars.
Yeah.
So I think it's very key what you are mentioning, technology and our need to actually start teaching children now technology at a very young age. And it is unfortunate, as you said, that we find that these services will mostly be accessible in the city, and then those who are farther away from the city will not be able to enjoy such services. One of the sectors that you alluded to there was agriculture. So I also wanted to ask, how do you see the future of agriculture? We mentioned at the beginning global warming, a shift, AI, technology, and so I want to find out, what do you see the future of agriculture and mining in Botswana in terms of employment opportunities? Currently in our country, we are having a conversation around synthetic diamonds and what the potential could mean for the industry locally. So what are the employment opportunities that lie in those sectors that are very key to us as a nation?
So I'd start with agric, right? So there's a lot of support from the government when it comes to agric. There are a number of programs of different measures that are being done to ensure that there are subsidies that are given to locals when it comes to agric. So there, I'd say the future is quite bright. There's a lot of potential. It's just upon us as the citizens to ensure that we meet government halfway. Government is giving out the help and the resources and everything. So it's upon us to come and ensure that we have the skills, the knowledge, and the diligence to actually make those outputs that are worth being bought in the stores. I'm sure you've seen online a number of people complaining about the quality of our local produce. So that talks to us needing to ensure that we get to the right standard with time. Then with mining, that's another place where there's a lot of opportunity as well. I mean, over the past few years, we've seen different mines offer what's called CEEP programs, Citizen Economic Empowerment Programs, which are basically the ways that the mine is saying we are ensuring that a large portion of our funds go to the local economy through taking on board local vendors. And they do that by ensuring that, okay, one, there's a portion of supplies that is given to local vendors. Then two, we've seen programs offered by Botswana in partnership with other universities to ensure that they upskill local vendors to expand on their businesses and ensure that they improve and they increase in size and in turn employ more people. So there's a lot of opportunity there for us as the citizens. It just comes back to the issue of quality again. Mines for the longest time have been using large vendors coming from outside the country, basically. So now it's upon us to ensure that as we take over, we offer the same, if not better, quality. So diligence and excellence in our delivery as the locals is very, very important, because the support, subsidies, and the resources from either the mines or the government are there. What's needed from us is to ensure that we keep the right standard at all times. Yeah.
Me gone go pala ha kae? Why are we lacking in terms of reaching those levels of quality that now companies would prefer to look outside the country for? Yeah.
So
for good quality products.
I think it's an issue of the skills locally. If you look at what a number of Western companies say about doing business in Africa, one of the key concerns is it's actually not labor, but it's labor with the necessary knowledge and skills. So the labor force is there, but the skills part is lacking. So that's the biggest challenge that we see across Africa and even locally as well. You'd find that the skills that we need aren't here locally. So any training that needs to be done usually would be done outside of the country, in SA, as an example. So because of that, you'd find that the level of quality takes a while to reach where it should be because of that gap. You see, so I believe the intent is there, is the knowledge and the skills part that is often lagging behind. Because if you look at these sectors outside the country, in SA, in Zim, and other places, they've been in these spaces for many decades, and so they've built that knowledge base and that skills as well, and the skills as well, to be able to ensure that they deliver at the right level of quality. So I think locally, it's just a matter of time before we can all get to the right level of quality. But there are a number of companies locally that have reached that level of quality, that are able to deliver locally and even export. As an example, I'm not sure if you know of the bulb world. They produce bulbs, right? So they've been, yeah. So they've been supplying locally for a number of years, and they now export to SA. You see, so it's not all doom and gloom. There are companies that are doing exceptionally well and are even taking products outside of the country. So it's just an issue of all of us, getting to that standard, basically.
And I think one thing that you also mentioned at the beginning was talent retention. And one of my questions I always ask is that, are we able to retain the talent that we have in this nation? Because I believe we have some talented people, some trained people, some skilled people. And then these companies that have been in the game for longer will lure these people away from the nation and from us enjoying their skill sets. So for me, I also feel that is also one key factor, that sometimes for whatever reason, we are unable to retain good quality people that I don't know whether it's a lack of resources or whatever, that we somehow find it difficult to compete. I mean, currently we are seeing that a lot of people, a lot of nurses are migrating to the UK because of better living. They are chasing better living conditions. And most of those people who are living are those who are really qualified, which is unfortunate, that we are losing people who are skilled in their particular departments, and they are now, people in the West now are going to be enjoying those skills. So, yeah. As you are saying, it's not all doom and gloom. There is hope and there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's important for us to have these conversations. Let's have these conversations that, okay, where are we going as a country? Where's the world moving to? How are we also, are we ready for what is coming? Which brings me nicely now onto my next question. So, what are your predictions for the job market in Botswana for the next 10 to 20 years? And there's an interesting fact that processing power, like computing processing power, is doubling. Is it every year or every 2 years?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Yes.
So I mean, when it comes to the job market, it'll go back to the points that I made earlier on. Technology is at the forefront, is at the center of everything. Almost every sector is embracing technology. So the job market over the coming years will become very competitive. In one, a person needing to be not just comfortable, but reasonably competent when it comes to the use of technology, AI and the likes. Very important. Then two, qualifications will also become a major issue. As we see now, having a degree is a minimum for a number of roles. Whereas maybe 10, 15 years back, if you had a diploma, it was fine. But as you see now, a degree is the basic entry level. And in the coming years, we'll see now higher qualifications being needed, like a master's as an example. I know people that have a degree and that have masters, but are still struggling to find a job. And so that just talks to where we are going in terms of the job market that we see locally. So it also goes back to the points I made earlier on around having a high level of value as a person. So what will set you apart is being more valuable than the next candidate. If we go into a job interview and we both have the same degrees from the same school and the same level of work experience, then what sets us apart? It's what we can do outside of our degrees. And this means that as a candidate or as a person, ensure that you build up your value through one, education, of course, two, building up on your people skills, three, your technical skills, then four is being part of either clubs or any projects, or just be part of something that you are doing or that you are building, because that talks to the level of skills that you have as an individual. As an example, when I was in UB, I was part of a club called the UBFS, which was the UB Finance Society. And it allowed me to be part of planning events, planning projects as well. And that's what I had on my CV when I finished school. And it helped give me an extra advantage because it showed that I can work with people as a team. I can lead a team. I can get things done. So as a student, ensure that you're part of those clubs. If you're already outside school, be part of an NGO then. Be part of people that are building something, that are doing something, because that will add on to your own CV as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a very key. Those are very key things that you have that you have mentioned there, and I think that also adds on to you building your own network that you are part, and you have signed up to be part of these clubs and organization. And whether you are not also
100%.
just you are not just home. You're not just home, so you're putting yourself out there, and people are able to see
Exactly.
you and your skill sets. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Somebody said
also
nobody's going to see you when you are home.
when you're home, and just to add on to that,
Mm.
at times, if you're part of an NGO, as an example, if you excel at what you do, people will talk to others about you in a good way. And that's how you actually get opportunities. Even a job can actually come through you being part of an NGO or a club. Because you are consistent, you are diligent, you are committed. Someone sees good traits in you and then says, you know what? I know someone that's doing really well in our club. I think they could do a good job in your company. So those recommendations, those referrals can come through a number of people. So you never know. But just for you, as you're saying, it's for you to put yourself out there into the world.
One of the things that we see, I think it's a couple of years ago, if not last year, I remember a couple of countries were testing out the 4-hour working week. Some were trying out a 6-hour working day. That I always look at where we are going in terms of generations. That you look at the baby boomers, you look at the millennials, you look at Gen Z, you look at the alphas, that all of these things or all of these generations, they grow up under different circumstances. And that influences them in a certain way. That we are a generation that grew up in the 90s, that we remember a time where you couldn't have access to internet. We remember that time.
Yeah.
And there's a generation that grows up with the internet. That's like all our lives we have always had internet, but we remember there was a time where not every or we did. You had to go somewhere to somebody's office for you to have access to the internet and use dial-up and all of those type of things. And here are my thoughts. Are we making decisions with that in mind? Because I foresee a future where companies are going to be competing now because somebody will be like, okay, I have the skills. I have these 2 companies on my table with 2 offers on my table. One is telling me that I need to work 8 hours a day. One is telling me that I can work 6 hours a day. One is telling me that I can work 4 days a week. One is telling me I need to work 5 days a week. And all of these things are going to come and be, perks that will allow somebody to say, okay, no, I will choose this one over this one. Because people now are more into a work-life balance, that I don't want to spend all of my life at work, but I also want to be at home. So these are some of the things that I see in the future where there's an importance in somebody's. Now we are talking about your mental health. That these are companies that are saying we're going to make mental health your priority by making sure that you also, there's a balance that that is there. So as we land, what are your final thoughts and your advice to those who are watching, those who will listen to this on the future of work? I know there are future employees, employers who will watch this. There are students who will also watch this. What are your final thoughts and advice to that group of people that looking at where we are going as the world? This is my advice as Pako Moshaga.
All right. Thanks for that question. So I'd say my final thought would be learn personal branding. All of us have a personal brand. Personal branding is not for people that are popular or celebs or artists or the likes. Everyone has a personal brand. You currently have a brand, just that your brand at the moment is not managed. It's just organic, you see. So learn personal branding, what it is, how it works, why it matters, and what it can do for you. Because opportunities are drawn or they are repelled by our personal brands. So your brand is basically what people think of you, what they say about you, what they see you do, and what they decide based on what they've seen you do. So when you manage your brand, you build a positive name and reputation for yourself. And because of that positive name, opportunities like jobs will come to you. People will talk well of you, will tell others about you, and basically market you to other companies, to other employers, because you've shown up consistently and positively. And so in building your brand, be consistent, be diligent, never undermine any task thinking this is a minor task, so I'll just do what I can. No. Be consistent. Deliver your best every single time. Big tasks, small tasks, average tasks, whatever it is you're asked to do, be diligent and consistent at all times. And that is how you build your personal brand. Do the same online. Post things that you've thought through. Think about it to say, okay, I'm going to post this. What if this comes up in a job interview? What if it comes up in the workplace? Is this something that I can defend? I can justify? Does it make me look good? Or does it take points away from my brand? So manage your online brand consistently, and you'll see the results if you do that. Those are my final thoughts, mate.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Pako Moshaga, the founder of Talitha Cumi. These are some of the services that they offer: public speaking coaching, keynote talks, personal brand development, one-on-one consulting, and training. So we are going to leave their information down in the description box. So make sure you reach out to them. So, Mr. Pako Moshaga, we appreciate you making time. We really thank you for the insight and for the wealth of knowledge that we have downloaded, that you have downloaded on us today. And we hope we hope you guys found this discussion on the future of work in Botswana as enlightening as I did. And remember to share, subscribe, and until next time, guys, my name is MJ, signing out.
If you like this content, encourage us by liking, sharing, and subscribing.